right, good evening, everyone. Call tonight's meeting to order for Wednesday, December 4th. Ms. Fetters, when you're ready, please call the roll.
Gary Gross.
Here.
Jim Hall. Todd Moore.
Here.
Christopher Ambergy.
Present.
Jerry Heidenreich.
Present.
David Cash.
Here.
Stephen Wanamaker.
Here. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, that brings us to our meeting minutes for November 6, 2024. Any revisions, changes to the minutes? None?
Move that they be accepted as presented.
Okay.
Second that.
Gary Gross.
Yes.
Todd Moore.
Yes.
Christopher Ambergy.
Yes.
Jerry Heidenreich.
Yes.
David Cash.
Yes.
Stephen Wanamaker.
Yes.
Thank you. Before we get started, Mr. Cash, would you like to swear in Ms. Fetters?
Thank you. You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the true self you got. Thank you.
So, Ms. Fetters, council informed us that our first case, 1224, was that withdrawn this evening?
Yes, it was withdrawn about 2 hours before the meeting.
Okay.
Written in writing. Gosh, we'll get there.
So, just in terms of procedure, we'll accept a motion to withdraw. Is that correct?
A motion to accept the withdrawal, yes.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion to?
I move that we accept the withdrawal.
Second.
Mr. Gross.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Yes.
Mr. Ambergy.
Yes.
Mr. Heidenreich.
Yes.
Mr. Cash. Mr. Wanamaker.
Yes.
All right, this is case 2224. Ms. Fetters, I'll let you take the case from here.
All right, so this is for an area and dimensional variance. The request by applicant and property owner Charles Davis for an area and dimensional variance for the property at 429 Cambridge Drive to construct a shed in the side yard of the house. The property is zoned R3 medium density residential district. The variance requested is to allow the shed to be located on the side yard of the property, which is a corner lot faced by Cambridge Drive and Oaks Court. Per the application submitted, the applicant requests to place a shed in the side yard of the property because the property does not have a backyard, and the only place to put a shed is in the side yard behind the driveway. The applicant asserts that the exceptional narrowness, shallowness, or shape of the property and extraordinary situation or condition of the property qualifies the case for a variance. The purpose of the R3 medium density residential district is to provide for moderate density, single-family residential uses in an urban setting, which are served completely by public infrastructure adequate for the applicable density of development. Per the Middletown Development Code, Chapter 1204-10, Site Development Standards, corner lots that have street frontage on two intersecting streets, shall be considered a corner lot. Per the Middletown Development Code, Chapter 1206-01, accessory uses and structures, size requirements for residential districts, the aggregate square footage of the following accessory buildings and structures shall not exceed more than 25% of the total rear yard. You can see the examples listed there. And then also per the Middletown Development Code, Chapter 1206-01, accessory uses and structures, Table 1206-01, permitted accessory uses and structures, detached storage / utility sheds, gazebos, pool houses, and other similar buildings are permitted in the R3 zoning districts in the rear yard of the lot. According to the applicant does not believe if granted it will negatively affect surrounding properties or affect the delivery of governmental services. The applicant states the properties on each corner of where the shed would go have privacy fences. Per the Middletown Development Code, the requirement for legal notice for variance request and meeting notice letters for the proposed area and dimensional variance were sent to all property owners contiguous and directly across the street or public right-of-way of the subject property. Several voicemails and conversations have occurred to date with those that have received the meeting notice letters. One neighbor asked about the size of shed that would be placed in the side yard and spoke in opposition of the variance request. Another resident asked exactly where the shed would go on the property, and upon learning its location was neutral about the variance request itself. One neighbor asked where the shed would go and was ultimately in opposition to the variance based on previous activities that have occurred at the home and how neighbors are treated. Other neighbors have emailed asking for the dimensions of the shed, as well as pictures of the structure and the location of where the shed would go on the property. Here is the variance application. Here is their zoning permit application. Here is the table. Here is a picture of the house from Oaks Court, I believe.
Yes.
Here is a house on the corner. Here is your area and dimensional variance review criteria. Here is the time limit associated upon receiving a variance approval, as well as the appeals process. And that will conclude my staff report.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Fetters? Okay. We'll now open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the variance, please come forward. Mr. Cash will swear you in. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the variance, please come forward. Yes, sir, if you're speaking in favor, yes. Just one moment, just let us swear you in first. Please come forward, we'll swear you in, and, yeah, come on down.
Sir, right here.
No, that isn't working.
Oh, it's not.
Yes, sir, that'd be fine.
Sorry. Sir, would you raise your right hand and remain standing? Remain standing, please. You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Identify yourself if you will.
My name is Charles Davis. I'm the owner of 429 Cambridge Drive.
You can have a seat now. Thank you.
I have examples of 4 properties within 300 or 400 yards. 501 Leslie Drive, 5009 Leslie Drive. They both have sheds in the side yards. 5000 Rosedale Road has a shed in the side yard. It's almost touching the house, right behind the driveway. I'm assuming, I don't know if this was approved by the city of Middletown before. 4930 Rosedale Road, Middletown, Ohio. Another, which I have pictures and videos of all having sheds in the side yard. I could probably even find probably hundreds more in the city of Middletown with sheds in the side yard. Some of these properties probably have other options to have the shed in the rear of the house, but my particular property, whenever it was approved as far as a parcel, when it was being divided up as a subdivision, they didn't allow a backyard in this particular property. There is nowhere to place the shed behind the house that would, unless I got rid of the, possibly got rid of the deck off the back of the house, there is no other place. But there is 4 properties with less than a 1/16 of a mile in the same subdivision that have sheds in the side yard. 5001 Leslie Lane, Middletown, Ohio. 5009, both of them in the side yard. 5000 Rosedale Drive, Rosedale Road, Middletown, Ohio, in the side yard. And also 4930 Rosedale Road, Middletown, Ohio, in the same subdivision. I didn't feel that I needed to go find more evidence to possibly to see if you all would approve mine. I think I'm trying to do it the legal way, the proper way, by asking the city to approve it. But that's all I have. I can submit some pictures or anything too.
Just a couple questions for you as we get
Sure.
started here. In the application itself, you listed the size of the shed. There was a question in the comments.
It is a 10 by 16.
Yeah, I have that in notes. That would be the intent here, that 10 by 16 by 9, that's what you're looking to.
Yes.
And I was curious when in our comments where you say previous activities at the property,
I have no idea.
I mean, are you woodworking or something out there or doing something else in this? shed?
No,
Anything like that?
no.
Okay. I was just kind of curious, just to address folks' concerns on that. Just kind of curious why
No.
that was raised. So,
Chairman, I want to add on to you, your question. I see a notation that this is to be 3 feet off the property line, 20 feet to the rear property line. Let me finish, and then you tell me yes or no. 20 feet to the rear property line.
Yes,
That's your intent?
that's my intent. I mean, I could modify that to whatever the city would prefer if they would like.
No, I asked the question because I'm going to talk to staff about that in a minute.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank
Mr. Davis, I'm assuming, is that 9 foot at a peak, or is that a sidewall, 9 foot?
That's at the peak.
Okay. And then, just to clarify what Mr. Amberger was saying, the 20 foot, judging by this picture here, the 20 foot's coming from the top, correct?
Correct.
From the side, and then 3 foot from the right?
Basically, the building would
Pretty
go,
much right at the end of your driveway?
yeah, it would go behind the driveway, probably where the truck is in the picture. And I could, if you all, we can put it wherever you would like. Like, if you, I don't know the laws. I know they have to be so far off the property line.
I had a question for you about.
Sure.
Just trying, one of the challenges, honestly, when we've had this issue before with two intersecting, it's always an issue, you know? One of the things there, as I looked at, and we'll get into this later, certainly when I hear from my colleagues here too, but if there's a way to accommodate you where this is on the property line, if we could move that so it's
Yeah.
close to the back of the home and align that closer to the back of the house, just for your neighbors as well, keeping the consistency in the neighborhood, trying to find a remedy here for you.
We could move it closer to the house, as long as we keep it within the legal limits. It has to be so far from the house. So I can move it further, closer to the house. It would not fit behind the house anywhere.
Moving it up is what I was
The only possible way that it might fit behind the house would be next to the deck, but then it's, I wouldn't even be able to access it without even going on the neighbor's property.
in that situation.
Yeah, so I'm pretty, but there is a lot of neighbors that have sheds in their side yards in our particular, the Oaks neighborhood. I'm assuming they got permission from the city before, hopefully.
Never assume. Never assume.
Okay, any other questions from Mr. Davis?
I'd like to ask a question. On that picture, that you said that black figure is the truck you have?
That black figure is, the white figure is my truck.
What is the black figure?
It is the boat.
The boat, is that normally parked there?
Not always, no. Sometimes I put it in storage, sometimes I put it there. It just depends.
Okay, and then what you're proposing is relative to the boat, the shed would be to the upside of that then, basically?
I would like to place it right around where that boat is, the black shaded, and probably more towards the top side if possible. At first, I was going to take it 20 foot off of the the property line, there was a couple stumps there. We paid a company to grind all the stumps out, and it's all flat now. We could place the shed anywhere in there now.
The shed is not for the boat storage, though?
No, the shed is for like a lawnmower storage, and the boat would not fit in there. I would have to, the boat would either have to go in storage or that's not a problem, but we were wanting more storage for like lawnmower and tools and stuff like that, and just extra storage.
Your access to your garage is,
It's a side.
okay, so, okay, can't block that with the shed, that's why.
No, yeah, it would not be blocked in any way. It would sit behind the driveway, partially.
Claire, could you pull up, on my packet, it's page 31 of 90. It's a photograph. It looks like it's from a Cambridge perspective, looking down the driveway. I think that will show, back one. Keep going, that right there. So what you're saying, Mr. Davis, where we see that boat,
That's where I would
your
like.
shed is going to be there approximately, or to the left of
Yes,
that?
maybe a little bit to the left, but it would, part of that shed would line up with where that boat is.
All right.
Any other questions for Mr. Davis? All right, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor, please come forward. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the proposal, please come forward. Yeah,
Well, why don't you,
yeah,
why
we have to swear you.
why don't you come on up here, sir, so if we carry on any kind of discussion, it's under oath. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Identify yourself, if you would, sir.
Ken Roberts. I live at 5009 Oaks Court. There is one house in between me and the property in question. So I have more questions than I have objections at this point. The first question I have, if the shed's going to go where the boat is, where's the boat going to go? Because there are times when you have a boat, you have a camper, and now we will have a shed. So that's my first question. My second question is, if the variance is granted, once the variance is granted, it's forever, so to speak, right? It doesn't go away. So if the property changes hands, can a new owner move the shed to the other side yard within the restrictions of this variance? Because the real issue for me isn't where they want to place the shed or how they want to place the shed. It's the legacy that may be attached to granting a variance. And we all know properties change ownership. And I'm hesitant to say anything because I'm not one to want to tell somebody else what they can or can't do with the property they own. But unfortunately, in a neighborhood like we are, it impacts my property value if it's detrimental to the aesthetics. And that's all it amounts to, is the aesthetics of what it is. And I know these people, and I believe they would do right? But if it's facing the wrong way, and a future owner decides to leave the doors open all day long, every day, and we're looking straight into a mess, we can't do anything about it because the variance was granted, right? My concerns are not as much with today as with what the variance allows for the future.
Claire, do you want to try to answer any of those questions at all?
I put the time limit up. I really think, and Amy can definitely help on this, but if your motion includes certain verbiage on where the shed goes, I would imagine that's where it would have to stay.
It says side yard. Doesn't say left side
Well,
yard, doesn't say north.
According to our development code in this day and time, side yard is it is straight
Basically
from
the brown
so if you
patch.
follow my cursor, it's straight back and then right here.
Yes, but does the variance specify northeast corner of the property? Or does it specify?
Well, when you say side yard in our development code, there's a very unique definition for side yard of a corner lot.
I think what it might help,
So the southeast corner isn't side yard? That is on Cambridge? That's not,
That's front yard.
Those are two front yards.
even though the house faces, that's all considered front yard. So there's no possibility that a future owner could come in and say, I don't like it sitting here, and relocate it to the other side yard.
Be in a front, no, that'd be the front yard.
That'd be the front yard.
Couldn't
Okay.
do it.
You wouldn't want
That-
to leave, that's for sure.
So orientation-wise, it sounds like the doors of the shed, if you will, would face Cambridge. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so,
It's a very nice building. It's a very, very nice professional-looking building. It's rather expensive. It's probably $4,800 building.
so will you have the shed, the boat, and the camper all there? Okay.
We put the boat in storage.
Okay.
We won't have any of that. I won't have room to park the boat there when we put the building.
Well, that's why I was asking, because, again, I'm just concerned with property values and aesthetics. I don't want it to look like a cluttered, all that stuff. And, I get that there's no backyard, but there wasn't any backyard when you bought the property either.
I was going to say, too, sir, one of the
And you
things.
just bought it a couple years ago, and probably like everybody else figured out that you can't get everything you want into your house. So I lived the same thing, so I think that answers my questions more than anything. That's,
Yeah, thank you, sir.
If I might, can I ask Ms. Fetters a question? With regard to the boat, and I don't see an RV there, but maybe an RV eventually comes and goes. I don't know about that. All right, but is there, is the placement of those two vehicles, if it was an RV and a boat, is? Okay, sir, hold on. That's okay. Regardless of what it is, travel trailer, RV, fifth wheel, pop-up, whatever.
I keep looking
It-
through. and-
Is he in compliance with any of the local zoning enforcement code to have those two vehicles back there if they are behind the front yard flush lines?
So I've had this conversation briefly with code enforcement, not related to this, but I think the RV has to be parked at least 35 feet away from right of way. I can't find it in the code anywhere, so it might just be in the codified ordinances. I will continue to look.
Okay. But at this point in time, has this property been flagged, Mr. Davis's property been flagged for any code violation that you're aware of?
I didn't look.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I was going to say that does provide, I think the code does provide provisions there to address your concern. Could you speak up? Yeah, when we're looking, I know that we've had similar cases where, whether it's an RV or some of the things that Mr. Cash was talking about, different accessory uses that were there, there's code there. I'm not saying that necessarily applies in this case or not, but I believe so, especially as you start to accumulate more and more stuff. So I think there's protections there, but,
That's why. I think there is too.
I know we've dealt with those cases before, but don't want to read too far into that either way.
No, I-
Narrowly focused on what we're looking at here for now, but, well, thank you, sir, for your comments. Thank you, appreciate that. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition, please come forward. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition, please come forward. Yes, sir.
Can I stay here, or do I?
Well, if you're
I'll get a
unable to walk,
microphone
we
to
still
you.
need to swear you in either way.
Hey, you want to sit here?
I can stand.
I was gonna say,
We don't want you to fall down there.
No.
Thank you. My name is,
Mr. Cash will need to swear you in.
Would you raise your right hand, sir? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? And would you identify yourself into the microphone, please?
my name is James Vonderhaar. I live at 5004 Oaks Court. So I'd be the right across. I look down behind what we're calling the back of the house right now, where the deck is. And I'm not objecting to what's being proposed, but I'm just concerned on that corner and the house next to them. There's an awful lot of vehicles. You say there is no restriction on the size of a camper or what can be back there?
I don't want to speak.
I don't want,
Yeah,
You know,
wanna speak out of line.
I look out my front and I see the back of the big boat. And there has been a camper there more than a couple of days, I think. But I'm not here. I'm just concerned when I come out, right there at the lower left corner, there's usually two cars there, three truck and another. The neighbor next where that swimming pool is, they got about 5 or 6 cars. So between those two, and I know that's not a part of the discussion here, but there's about 10 or 12 vehicles, and when I want to come out and take a right turn, sometimes I got to get out in the intersection to see, is there any restriction how close the car can be parked to like it's almost, if you take that sidewalk, walk right into the car. Does anybody know that? Good question. If you're allowed to park that close to
I don't know.
so again, my main concern is we don't get too much clutter on two properties. But I'm not, this is what he's.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition, please come forward. Anyone else opposing the proposal tonight? Anyone in opposition, please come forward. Okay, hearing none, I will now close the public hearing, and we can move to deliberation. So, any questions, or do we want to look at the property line issue, where this proposal is at, being 3 feet off the property line? Any concerns about that? Or?
If I remember correctly, 3 feet is allowed in this district, is that correct?
Yes,
3 feet off property line, 6 foot from a building?
any other structure, including the deck.
So what he's proposing with 3 feet off the back and 20 foot off, I mean, as long as it's 6 feet from the house, it would at least fit the property line guidelines.
Any other concerns or anything for us to discuss in terms of the proposal itself?
I understand with the shed there, that may cause other vehicles to be parked more in the driveway and more visible, but that's not what we're addressing this evening, so I don't know if we can consider those. That's probably subject matter for a different time, so I don't know if that really weighs in on my decision.
I think his concerns were more cars on the street blocking the view from the corner, yeah. And that's a police issue as far as I'm concerned, if you're too close to the corner.
I can certainly understand, when you see additional things in the neighborhood parked on someone's property, I can see concerns there. I do think there are code. I think there's code there in place. I don't want to speak out of line on that, but I do think there are some things. But
Amy just found it.
okay,
It's in 12-1803. Recreational vehicles have to be at least 35 feet away from right-of-way.
Well, and it does refer to them as major recreational equipment, so hold line, I'll have to find that definition.
okay.
I'm assuming that's what our code enforcement talks about in terms of that's what they will generally deal with in terms of development code violations. Everything else, more nuance, I do get to see, so that is my assumption.
Just in summary, I think we've decided where he can place that thing and it's meeting the code. And other than that, I don't know, I don't have any objections at this point, so.
You have no objection to the 10 by 16 by 9?
No, well, this was something I caught when I was actually preparing the staff report, and that's why I put the first paragraph in there. They have such a small backyard, and they didn't put this in their application, but since we're here tonight, I wanted to flag it. Their backyard is, hang on, approximately 1,500 square feet. So they can have about 394 square feet of accessory structure. Their deck is, this is all approximate, about 316 square feet. So plus 160 square foot shed, that's 476 square feet. So that's over what they're technically allowed to have. I can apply up to a 10% administrative waiver, but that's still under the 400. They could have up to 433 square feet in terms of what I can approve administratively with that waiver. So they're about 43 square feet off or above of what I can really technically approve administratively.
Can you go back to the photograph, the overhead schematic that shows the boat and the truck, and we keep going?
That's back here.
There you go, right there. So you're saying the backyard, I think you just said was about 1,500 square feet,
Yes.
the real backyard here. But if we're granting a variance, that's where sheds are supposed to be located, is backyard, and no more than 25% of the square footage of the backyard, right?
Yes. And that includes all accessory structures. So that includes their porches and decks, sheds, swimming pools, etc.
Was this deck in violation?
No.
Okay, because it was obviously built when the house, I'm assuming it was built when the house was built.
Yeah, it's still under that 25% total aggregate square footage. But the shed's gonna send it over it.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. All structures cannot amount to more than 25% of the backyard. But the shed, if it was 25% of the side yard, which is where he wants to put the shed now, the shed would clearly be under 25% of the square footage of that side yard.
I struggle with this too. However, it includes porches and decks, but porches and decks are also allowed in the front yard. So then I interpret the code that it's take your backyard square footage, and that applies to all your accessory structures on your property.
The code will not always be your friend.
Yeah, trust me. Have you seen your list of items?
So if we were to grant the variance based upon the size of this shed, but it exceeds the 25%, we'd have to approve that as a variance as well, as far as the variance of from the 25% maximum square footage of, what'd you call it, shed, structures.
Yeah, aggregate square footage.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Chairman, I'm ready to propose that we do approve of this variance.
As we go through, the motion, just cite the review criteria for the record, if there is a second for the motion to approve.
Well,
I always look to my counsel.
Mr. Wanamaker and I, we can collaborate, but as I look through the criteria, if we were to move to grant the variance, it looks as though subsection 1, subsection 5, and subsection 9 would be criteria that would satisfy a variance allowance.
Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second. We'll call the roll.
Mr. Gross?
Yes?
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Ambrey?
Yes.
Mr. Heidenreich,
Yes.
Mr. Cash,
Yes.
Mr. Wanamaker.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us now to our next case. This is case 2324. Brett Oakley and Ron Decker. Ms. Fetters, I'll let you take the case from here.
All right, so this is a use variance case for the parcel ID listed above to use the parcel to construct mini self-storage units. The parcel is zoned R2, low-density residential district. The variance requested is to allow for self-storage units, self-storage facilities, use type in the R2 district, a prohibited use. Per the application submitted, the applicant requests to utilize the 2.23 acres that are currently zoned R2 to construct the mini self-storage units prohibited in any residential zoning district. The applicant notes that the project is in close proximity to commercial uses, and the road that would service the self-storage units, Dixie Highway, is a busy road. The purpose of the R2 low-density residential district is to provide for low-density single-family residential uses in a more urban setting than the R1 district, and which are served completely by public infrastructure adequate for the applicable density of development. Per the Middletown Development Code, Table 1204-3, principally permitted uses, self-storage facility use type within the storage and distribution use category is considered a prohibited use in the R2 district. For the Middletown Development Code, Chapter 120302, definitions, self-storage facilities are defined as a structure containing separate individual and private storage spaces of varying sizes, which are leased or rented on an individual leases for varying periods of time, and whose tenants have access to such space for the purpose of storing and removing personal property. According to the application, the applicant does not believe, if granted, it will negatively affect the surrounding properties or affect the delivery of governmental services. Per the Middletown Development Code, the requirement for legal notice for variance requests and meeting notice letters for the proposed use variance were sent out to all property owners contiguous and directly across the street or public right-of-way of the subject property. One resident has spoken in full support of the variance. Another resident has spoken in opposition and sent a formal letter to staff to forward to the Board of Zoning Appeals that fully outlines the opposition to the variance, as the resident cannot attend the December 4th meeting in person. Here is the variance application. I know it's not really legible, but here is the letter of intent. Here is the architectural site plan. The proposed elevation from Cincinnati Dayton Road or Dixie Highway. Here is table 1204-3. Here's public comment number 1. Here is the property, or from the view from across the street from the property, as well as the property to the left. And your zoning map. Your use variance review criteria. And the time limit in appeals. And that will conclude my staff report.
Any questions before we open the public hearing?
Could you go back to the properties? It was an overhead view, not of the buildings, but yeah, right here. What, this is on the west side of Cincinnati Dayton Road, but the zoning for those particular businesses there is, you just had a zoning map up there. There you go.
B2.
Is it?
It's B2.
Is it B2?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. I was hunting for Cincinnati Dayton Road, now I see it. All right.
I think it's Dixie Highway until
It is.
down, but
I do have one question. Am I reading this correctly, that this property lies directly between two residences?
yes.
There's no other questions. I'll go ahead and open the public hearing now. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the variance, please come forward. Mr. Cash will swear you in.
Sir, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Identify yourself if you would.
My name's Brett Oakley.
Okay.
8108 Chamberlain Road, Carlisle, Ohio.
Thank you.
Basically, what we've done was across the road from this is a high-traffic business. As you guys know, Cincinnati-Dayton Road is a very busy road. There are houses that are set back. There's also a house directly behind this property as well, and sort of a horse farm that lays to the right. What we're trying to do is put a nice community, small little store and lock in there, because we've got a lot of apartments, a lot of people that still need places to build sheds, do storages and stuff. So, you know, we're really trying to spend some money on this and make it statically pleasing for the neighbors. The last thing we're here to do is bring anything that can harm the community. So we're trying, that's why Ron, as he drawed this, had the community in mind on saying, how do we hide it? How do we do something more decorative? This will not have an office at it. This will be strictly a self-move in and out through a computer-type system. Appreciate the boards on it, and we're here to listen to neighbors and any opinions or any influence or input. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to look at the application on this.
Mr. Oakley, do you own the property at this point?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I was curious too, as far as how close. I was trying to get a gauge before the meeting here. How close Burnham Woods comes in. I know the horse farm's kind of back there. Yeah, just sorry, I don't know if this mic's carrying through, but as we look at Burnham Woods, your facility, I was trying to kind of get a gauge of how far back into off of Cincinnati-Dayton Road that you will go back. There's that long driveway that goes.
Yep, pretty well goes back the whole length of the property the way it is. The key is we had a total of 6 buildings, so we laid it out so there's plenty of room for people to pull around and not be crowded in there, so we didn't cram a whole lot. But there was basically 6 buildings that lined up exactly the same down through there. I think there's around 180 to 200 total storage units, some that are 5 by 5, 10 by 10, 10 by 15, and I think 10 by 20. So it's one of these things that's sort of a balance to where the walls can move in or out depending on the sizes. But the 180 to 200 is a good number on how many units are in there the way they're broke down.
Any other questions for Mr. Oakley?
Well, Mr. Oakley, I'm looking at Mr. Decker's drawings, but unfortunately they're so small I can't.
I've got some other drawings here that you can see.
What is the total distance back from the from Cincinnati-Dayton Road?
I think it's 200 feet. I've got prints here
Right.
that you can
Does that
have.
sound about right?
Yeah, I've got some larger prints that you can look at.
That's all I have.
It's a total of about 2 acres, just a tick over 2 acres.
So, Mr. Oakley, when you purchased the property, was the intent always to have a storage unit, or were you open to other things? Because
No, I've been open to looking at other things. You know, the biggest thing is I own quite a few rental houses, both in Middletown and Carlisle, Miamisburg, and you sort of look at usage and best things. So I've sat on the ground for a couple of years now. It's truly taking the models and saying, what can you do? Where can you do it? You know, 425 Clark Street is another place that I'm fixing up, making a gated community out of that. I don't cut corners. That's the one thing I can tell you. The last thing I'm here to do is affect anybody's neighborhood and houses. So I understand 100% about somebody having a house, privacy. Sometimes I notice between rental properties and things, and I'm pretty hard on my rental properties. I don't have any Section 8 in any of my houses. I don't deal with people that will not take care of their property. I think I care about my property as much as I do my neighbors.
yeah, just one of the challenges there is it just being a prohibited use, and also it's an interesting site there because it's interesting and challenging. You got a great location.
I agree with that.
Sandwiched in between things there, but I raise all those concerns only because one of the review criteria we look at is there an economically viable use? Should this go an opposite direction or not in your favor?
I think in the community for the apartments and the balance in that area, I think it fits good. It's not a real big complex, it's a small, it just makes it more convenient for people moving in that area with the subdivisions and stuff in and out. I think it's a good use for this land, but that's just my opinion.
How many units are in this, did you say?
Between 180 and 200.
200
Yeah,
units?
if you look, there's about 30 units per building is what I counted. So I figured that was going to be a question. I literally just counted in here on the print. So it's about 30 units per building is what it is.
Stephen, you might know this as well, but when you're looking at 2.5 acres, should this go in, is it 6 acres? But my question is, I know that Middletown has really tried to go into expanding housing opportunities, and that location there being a wooded lot. I'm just trying to get a better understanding of what the scale of this lot actually is. You know, what could be done there, or the number of homes that could potentially, even townhomes or something else in that spot that would be, because it's kind of unique where you're surrounded by trees, and you're right off of Cincinnati-Dayton.
Right. If you build apartments, I think that's something a lot of times the neighborhood doesn't want. I think this facility creates a better environment for the neighborhood than even throwing townhouses, apartments in there. So I'm with you. I have looked at this thing a lot, and like I said, I'm open for advice, but it's tough getting an ROI anymore with continuing property increases and things that we're all dealing with is definitely difficult. With the housings, multifamily, a lot of different things.
Any other questions for Mr. Oakley?
I was curious about the drawing, the elevation drawings. It shows the buildings are quite a lot taller than the fence area. Are they really that tall, or is it just the scale that's off?
It's more statics, and you know, we're open to the fence. I think normally in the storm locks, it seems like you do depending a 212, 312 pitch on the roofs. We're not doing metal storm locks. They've got the cheap throw together ones. This won't be like that. This will be more the wood construction. The biggest thing is the height is something that's normally standard 8.5 feet. Is what it is. So that fence there, we can make that fence 6 foot tall to try to help block a lot of that, so that'll give you a little bit better idea maybe. And we could put that in there to where the board could actually look at the final revised print. Ron did a draft and drawing for this piece, and we'd be more than open to ideas on that kind of things. Because like I said, we're not here to create hardship on any neighbors. We're just trying to put something in here that we think that will help the community, believe it or not.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Oakley?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the proposed variance, please come forward. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition, please come forward. Yes, sir, please come forward.
Sir, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? And identify yourself if you would, please.
My name is William Garrett. My dad lives at 6880 Locust Lane, which is catty corner to the corner of this lot, southeast. He bought the house 50 years ago, and in part because it was a large wooded lot that's quiet. The things that he's really concerned about in this situation is will this space be monitored at night and throughout the evening hours? He's concerned about the removal of all the trees because that provides a great buffer between Dixie Highway and our home. And then, I know now that it's all fenced in, but the main concerns here are, this is a quiet neighborhood. It's bordered front, back, and side by large lot homes. And we just think that it would make more sense to remain a large residential lot.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition, please come forward.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Identify yourself if you would.
Ronnie Lentz. Okay. I'm a property owner at the rear end of this mini storage that Mr. Oakley wants to. Excuse me, sir. Would you scoot over closer to? Thank you. Okay, I live directly behind where Mr. Oates wants to build this mini storage. For one, I live on a shared driveway that goes way back. There's 2 homes set back there. I think Claire has a letter from Mr. Stamper and how he feels about the lot or the mini storage. I have 2 more letters. The 2 other homeowners couldn't be here. One just got out of the hospital, and the other one is in the hospital. But myself, on the shared driveway with the high traffic on South Dixie Highway, I can't hardly get out of my driveway now. I mean, you're looking north and south to get out. Directly across from me, you have the gym, the power station. Those people are coming out. I mean, it is 3 ways that it's happening right there. Now, with that mini storage there, I don't know how in the world you couldn't get out of my driveway. Can you imagine people, how many units does Mr. Oakley want to put up again? I can't recall. 200? You got 200 some storage in there. They're bringing trucks and trailers, and now they're sticking out. You would need a traffic light there, and it would still be a fiasco. I mean, I can't see it. A home there would be fine. That's what it is. It's a residential area. That would bring theft into the area, mini storage. Everyone be coming there wanting to get in their stuff. Oh, there's a nice home right there. I think I'll just see what they got. I can think of many reasons why we don't need a mini storage there. It's surrounded by woods, and all those homes are all nice, wooded in on a lot. And let me ask you all a question. Would you want a mini storage in your front yard as a property owner? It would depreciate. I own 3 acres. With a mini storage there, the depreciation would be, I know, it'd go down. I'd have a rough time selling my home then. I mean, build a home there. I'm all for a new neighbor. I'm friends with everyone that lived back there. So I definitely oppose of it.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
Any questions for me?
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition, please come forward. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition, please come forward. Okay, I'll close the public hearing. We can move to deliberation. Yeah. First, I want to say to Mr. Oakley, I think it's a challenge here, certainly, because I think the drawings that you have proposed here, you're trying your best to try to fit this into that location best you can. It is a challenging location as well, being surrounded by woods and commercial properties, those sorts of things. So it is definitely a challenge there. There's also my great concern about Burnham Woods and protecting Burnham Woods and the whole area back there is just, it's a unique location for Middletown. It just is. At some point, this site will be developed, no doubt. I wish I could accommodate you on something like this. I wish it was a different location. But for me, I would not be in favor of granting the variance.
I personally am a firm believer that an investor should maximize their ROI with all their properties. And I know that Mr. Oakley does a great job with many of the properties that he owns. I have no doubt that it would be aesthetically pleasing. However, to what Mr. Moore said, that I feel that the surrounding neighborhoods, you could have a heck of a wooded buffer even with that lot. But even then, I think what that would entail would be a detriment to the rest of the area. My other biggest concern is that our job here is to follow all the criteria that's been given to us. So it's not always just us wanting to do whatever we decide. Our hands are tied by code. And unfortunately, with the use variance, we have to go by all criteria. Right. Every one of those criteria has to be met in order to pass it. And some of these I can't justify in meeting some of these criteria. So I personally, we do need self-storage. Everyone's got stuff. I just don't know if we can accommodate it here.
I'll jump on that, but we do need the storage. I think your plan is sound. I think it's very accurate. A lot of apartment dwellers, and I just think that this is the wrong piece of land.
Any other questions or any other comments? At this time, does someone want to make a motion to deny?
I'll move that we deny the variance request.
Okay, we have a second.
Second.
Ms. Fetters, when you're ready.
Could I ask you to throw in a few standards on the denial, if that's all right?
D would definitely apply because the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered as a result of the variance, at least that one.
A and B as well. Yeah. I don't think it meets those.
A, B, and D. Yeah. Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and do roll call at this point.
Mr. Gross?
Yes to deny.
Mr. Moore?
Yes to deny.
Mr. Ambergy?
Yes to deny.
Mr. Heidenreich?
Yes to deny.
Mr. Cash?
Yes to deny.
Mr. Wanamaker?
Yes to deny.
All right, thank you. Okay, next case is case 2424. Ms. Fetters, I'll let you take it from here.
This is a request by applicant Amy Hook of Community Design Alliance for an area and dimensional variance for the property at 5750 Innovation Drive to construct a guardhouse in the side yard of the property. The property is zoned BCO, Business Center Office District. The variance requested is to allow the guardhouse to be located in the side yard of the property. Detached storage / utility sheds, gazebos, pool houses, and other similar buildings are only permitted in the rear yard in the BCO zoning district. Per the application submitted, the applicant requests to construct the guardhouse of 76 square feet in the side yard. The applicant asserts that the exceptional narrowness, shallowness, or shape of the property qualifies the case for a variance. The shape and existing topographical grade of the parcel, along with the location of the existing building, does not permit a buildable area in the rear yard for an outdoor aquatic pool, accompanying pump and bathhouse, green space, and gated guardhouse. The applicant further explains that the existing rear yard is approximately 60 feet from the existing building with a 50-foot setback, which also includes topographical change with a retaining wall, limiting the building area within the rear yard. The purpose of the BCO subdistrict is to encourage development comprised primarily of office and medical uses, and to create a more open campus-like environment with greater automobile convenience than the BCH subdistrict, and also allow for the integration of multifamily residential buildings and dwellings above non-residential uses. Per the Middletown Development Code, Chapter 120601, Accessory Uses and Structures, Table 120601, Permitted Accessory Uses and Structures, detached storage and utility sheds, gazebos, pool houses, and other similar buildings are permitted in the BCO zoning districts in the rear yard of the lot. According to the applicant does not believe, if granted, it will negatively impact surrounding properties or affect the delivery of governmental services. The applicant notes that the proposed structure has an approximate 125-foot front yard setback with a 150-foot side yard setback with an existing densely wooded buffer between the proposed guardhouse and the adjacent property. Per the Middletown Development Code, the requirement for legal notice for variance request and meeting notice letters for the proposed area and dimensional variance were sent to all property owners contiguous and directly across the street or public right-of-way of the subject property, and no comments have been received to date. Here's the variance application. And if you can see it, here is the proposed guardhouse. Here are elevations of the proposed guardhouse. They are going to be matching the same elevations of the Y itself. A little bit closer view. Here's table 120601. Here's your area and dimensional variance review criteria. And then the time limit and appeals for this. And that will conclude my staff report.
Thank you, Ms. Fetters. Any questions at all before we open the public hearing?
I just wanted to see if you could go back to the aerial view. I just was trying to, what is that, Innovation Drive? I was just trying to see which road was, is that going to be, yeah, so Innovation is going to be, does it say it on here?
I had the same question.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
It's gonna be like over here, I believe.
Okay.
Innovation is almost
Where
where,
you're standing?
yeah. Well, where Google's standing on this one.
Am I correct? Is this basically for the new pool installation?
It is
Okay.
part of that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, please come forward.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God. Identify yourself.
Hi, my name is Amy Huckey. I'm from Community Design Alliance and represent the Atrium YMCA. To answer your first question about where Innovation Drive is related to that site plan map, it is not on that site plan map, so there's just too much space. The reasoning for the location of the guardhouse is because it sits so far back from Innovation Drive, and when we started first planning this, the Innovation Drive stopped. It wasn't actually continuing on to where the apartments are. And the Y felt like it was very important to kind of show where the pool is, since it is tucked around the back of the building. And they don't actually get that much traffic on that end because actually that end of the building is for the orthopedic offices that don't even serve their customers as a recreation facility. So they were trying to get kind of some advertisement, I guess you could say, of what was happening behind the pool, behind the building for the pool.
Question for you. Is there in order to go to the pool, do you have to go past that guardhouse? Is that he's gonna be the
You
caretaker of who's going back there?
You do. That is going to be their primary entrance because I believe they're going to let non-Y members enter. So they don't want a flood of people coming through the front desk to scan their key cards or not scan their key cards and managing members versus non-members. So there will be a way into the Y, into the main building once you're inside the pool, because you'll be able to access some of the locker rooms and restrooms, but that will be the primary entrance.
Will he be collecting money there?
That is a question for the Y. I'm not sure how they will operate that. I don't believe so. I believe it would be a pass type situation. Like you could buy a pass for the pool and not for the Y, for all the amenities.
Any other questions? Thank you for being so patient this evening. Thank
Sure. I'm used to this. This is thank you.
Okay, anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the proposed variance, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the variance, please come forward. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. We can move to deliberation.
I personally have no problem making a motion to approve the variance for the guardhouse to be built where it is proposed.
Let's make sure we cite a couple of review criteria for the record before we move forward. Yeah. So.
I believe A9 is always.
Number 9, yep.
Yeah, number 9 would work.
Number 9 it is then. Who made the motion? Chris? Okay. Second, okay.
Mr. Gross,
Yes?
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Ambergy,
Yes.
Mr. Heidenreich,
Yes.
Mr. Cash,
Yes.
Mr. Wanamaker.
Yes.
Look forward to seeing the new pool out there.
Thank you.
Okay, old or new business? These are, I believe, some of the cases we had last month. We continued these cases, is that correct? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Well, case number 1624, that'll be our first one. Adam Vaughn. Ms. Fetters, when you're ready.
All right, this is a request by applicant and property owner Adam Vaughn for an area and dimensional variance for the property at 1706 Manchester Avenue to construct a chain link fence with a green rubber coating. The property is zoned UCS, Urban Core Support Subdistrict. The variance requested is to allow chain link fencing in the UCS zoning district where chain link fencing is expressly prohibited. Per the application submitted, the applicant wishes to erect a chain link fence with green rubber coating. Due to if a privacy fence is erected, it will be graffitied. The applicant asserts the extraordinary situation or condition of the property qualifies the case for a variance. The purpose of the UCS subdistrict is to maintain and enhance downtown Middletown by providing areas for office, institutional, and residential uses that support central district uses and provide a transition between the high-intensity UCC subdistrict and surrounding residential neighborhoods. The UCS district allows residential, including single-family, some service, office, institutional, and recreational uses. Per the Middletown Development Code, Chapter 120806, fences, walls, and hedges, materials, and the UC district, fence or wall materials and style must conform to the historic character of the district. Fences shall only consist of wood, ornamental iron, and aluminum or vinyl material, which resembles wood, ornamental iron, or aluminum. Walls shall only be constructed with brick or stone exposed surfaces or traditional stucco. Chain link, wire, and barbed wire fences are expressly prohibited in all UC subdistricts. A According to the applicant does not believe if granted it will negatively affect the surrounding properties or affect the delivery of governmental services. Per the Middletown Development Code, legal notice is required for all variance requests, and no comments have been received since the one that was originally received. Here's their variance application. I did get to speak with the applicant the day after the last BZA meeting. I told him that it was continued until the height of the fence was known and the location of the fence was known. So he drew this picture. It will not go all around the property, but where it's shown in black Sharpie, it will be 6 feet in height and then a gate as well. Here's that public comment. Here's their outcome letter asking or letting them know why it was continued. Here is your area and dimensional variance review criteria. Here is the time limit in appeals. And I actually spoke with the applicant about 2 hours before the meeting. He asked that if you had any questions, we give him a call while we're all sitting here because he is on another meeting trip because he does travel for work. He's currently in Chicago.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, any questions from Ms. Fetters?
I have one question. Why didn't he continue it between the property, you know, we ceased it there, and there's a property line there that he didn't cover? What was the purpose of that? 'Cause I thought it was gonna give him security, but I don't understand why he didn't go the full.
I don't know, but that does save him from another part of the code because you're not allowed to have chain link around the perimeter of a property. So
There's chain link fence there. From the neighbor to the east. In fact, I looked and as I drove through today, there's 2 or 3 properties right next to it that have chain link fence that probably look like they need help.
And, to clarify, 6-foot height is allowed, but the material is not, I believe.
correct.
So it could be, is that the black aluminum or anything else?
So he brought up cost when I spoke with him the day after last BZA meeting.
It would be considerably.
Yeah. I did ask him today because I was trying to think off the wall questions that might be brought up. I said, would you consider black instead of a green rubber coating? And he said yes. But that's all I could really think of that you might.
I assume that he's got that gate at the street there, that apparently moves to the upper part, and that's where he extends it around the yard, and I assumed when I drove past it, that's the fence he's talking about, what it'll look like, that green.
I think so.
Okay, I got it. And he move it at the top there, right, going up that hill, and it looks like from that top view of the property.
Somebody help me with the objection, the logic for the objection to a rubber-coated fence of any color.
Was there an object? I didn't think there was an objection in this case.
Because it's chain link. Just because it's chain link, I believe
Well, I
is the
thought it was
objection.
coated.
Yeah.
It is. Only?
Yeah.
I beg your pardon.
You just can't have chain link in that district, yeah.
So, now let's talk about chain link fences. There's one argument, it's just, I don't know why, but every once in a while, a sentence will catch my attention, and it was, if I put a privacy fence up, they'll just spray graffiti on it. And he's probably right.
Well, he's absolutely right.
Well, in that neighborhood.
This is the lowest, this is the lowest maintenance and lowest vandalism-proof, or the highest vandalism-proof fence that you probably could put up, or the least likely to be vandalized.
If and when it is vandalized, it's easily repaired.
Yeah.
I drove through the alley behind, well, it isn't an alley, but I think it is an alley behind him. He's got a building there and it's already got something written on the back of it with spray paint. So, you can see that.
This is one, Claire, that You know, somewhere you make a little notation someday when they're reviewing the code. Might have an open discussion on that.
And I guess I do understand that zoning district does kind of reach into some areas where it may not be the most appropriate. So it probably does make sense if you go, more onto Central Avenue or more downtown, but I don't know if that restriction necessarily should be upheld on this particular property, which is a commercial property. I mean, in my opinion, unless there's more deliberation or anything.
Since we're just chatting on this, can you put the top view where the fence is going to be located?
Oh.
Yeah, that one. In that Vale Avenue note, is that appropriate for that alley? I know Vale Avenue picks up downtown further near Verity Parkway, but to me, that's just an alley, and I don't even know why it's labeled.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go through. It's just a funny thing. It's just a quirk. That's another thing that I would do away with. All right, let's get moving. Sorry, guys.
That's okay, that's okay. Well, this is a public hearing, so I should go ahead and open the public hearing at this point. Is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor of the proposed variance? Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the proposed variance? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. We've kind of already done some deliberation. I agree with Mr. Wanamaker and Mr. Cash. I mean, at some point, just being reasonable, how do we accommodate this in some form? It's the second time it's been before us. I think I would be in favor of granting the variance at this point. The only thing I would like to clarify somewhat is just exactly where is that fence? What is the scope? You're saying it's not going all the way around the facility, but we've got the one area which is the current green fence. There'll obviously be a fence there, a gate there.
No, he's moving the gate up.
Am I wrong on that? So.
See where it says gate up there?
Yeah, he's moving it up.
Okay.
He's moving it to the top of that driveway.
Yeah, he's affixing, we had quite a discussion on this. He's affixing to the building in the back, 1705 it looks like, maybe. And then also the front facade, that front corner of his building.
Okay.
So the gate will go there across the little driveway and then it'll jump out and then, yeah.
Do you know, is it a business there? Is that, what's in that?
I don't know. I was talking with my coworker about this day. I don't know if this is where he operates his traveling business, but he does some sort of work.
It's called Avonix, so.
But I'm not sure if that's like a
Avonix
side
does.
business or anything.
Okay. Well, it sounds like we are ready to make a motion. Do we have a motion to approve? Cite the review criteria? Yeah.
I'll move to approve the variance, citing review criteria 9 and 5.
I'll second.
All right, Mr. Gross,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Ambergy,
Yes.
Mr. Heidenreich,
Yes.
Mr. Cash,
Yes.
Mr. Wanamaker.
Yes.
So the next case, 1724, postponed until February. No changes there. We're postponing? Is it-
Big changes. They changed their application totally, so it has to be public notice, and like we all discussed at the last meeting, we're not coming in on New Year's Day for the January meeting, so we'll do it on February.
Okay, great. Okay, this looks like this brings us to our last case then, case 2024. Let you take it from here.
All right. This is a request by the applicant and property owner, Lawrence Tuckush, for a use variance for the property at 3121 Plymouth Street to use residential lots to construct a new manufacturing plant for Middletown Industrial Technologies. The property is zoned R4, attached residential district. The variance requested is to allow for manufacturing and production indoors use type in the R4 zoning district, a prohibited use. Per the application submitted, the applicant wishes to use to be granted a use variance for the identified parcels to allow for a new manufacturing plant. The applicant asserts the new building will enhance property values. The purpose of the R4 attached residential district is to provide for moderate to high-density residential development, generally located in the core area of the city, and that reflects the historic urban development pattern in and around downtown Middletown. Per the development code, table 1204-3, principally permitted uses, manufacturing and production indoors is considered a prohibited use in the R4 zoning district. Per the Middletown Development Code, Chapter 120601, accessory uses and structures, standards for specific accessory uses and structures, home occupations, prohibited home occupations, welding and machine shop operations is prohibited. Per the Middletown Development Code, Chapter 123002, definitions, manufacturing and production indoors is defined as the manufacturing, processing, or assembly of products within a fully enclosed structure where noise, odor, light, or vibrations is not noticeable from the adjacent properties. This use type shall not include establishments that provide electroplating, metal stamping, forging, or vehicle processing. See also manufacturing, production, heavier outdoors, and those other examples. According to the application, the applicant does not believe, if granted, it will negatively affect the surrounding properties or affect the delivery of governmental services. Per the Middletown Development Code, the requirement for legal notice for variance requests and meeting notice letters for the proposed use variance were sent to all property owners contiguous and directly across the street or public right-of-way of the subject property. No comments have been received to date. Here's their variance application. And I did get some examples yesterday. Here is the specs on their building. The applicant provided some new pictures of the existing building. Here's the outcome letter that was sent to the applicant, and then the applicant's response. I know you probably can't see it, but I believe he is here to speak to what he said in his email. Here's the table. Here are the surrounding areas. The applicant's original pictures. Your variance review criteria. And the time limit in appeals.
I do have a question before we get started. The picture, if you could just show the picture, and we can ask the applicant as well, but now, where the fence, are we reviewing the site where the fence is around the home? Is it that lot that we're looking at, or which lot are we actually reviewing here? That's where I was looking.
Back up one. No,
The other way.
the photograph where the fence is visible and it's being taken from a sidewalk.
is.
There you go, that's it.
I believe that's it.
So there's an existing business, but the one that the case we're reviewing would be, what we're looking at here would be this lot, right?
There's
About your blue stars.
yeah, there's
That's
the two stars are going to help us the most here. Those are the two parcels that were included on the application for the variance.
So one of the things I was a little confused on, Claire, on this, when I think of use variances, I was trying to figure out how is this different than spot zoning if we're looking at a residential lot itself changing. Usually when we think about uses, we have an existing structure and whether or not we're changing the use of that existing structure. I'm not as familiar with using a use variance to change a lot itself to a commercial lot.
I was mailed this in just without any contact with the applicant prior to.
No, just as, just
But
as a,
that's a good point.
yeah, just as a, you know, just as a planning concept, or even legally looking at it from, because we're actually, again, maybe I'm just stuck on thinking about facilities itself and how use variances would go through the process of changing the facility or usage on a facility or existing building, those sorts of things. But when we're talking about moving a residential lot to a different classification, it strikes me as spot zoning as opposed to a use variance. I could be wrong, I'm just raising that question.
No, it's a very good question.
It is.
I would maybe defer to Amy on that one.
She's looking that up. Can you put the little sketch of what the building is going to look like?
You want that one?
Previous one.
You said you got that when?
Yesterday?
Question of the chair. I would advise that we just move forward and analyze this as you would any use variance, because our definition of use is any purpose for which, in the Middletown Development Code, is any purpose for which a lot, building, or structure may be operated. So I would just stay within your use variance standards and analyze it. Though I see exactly what you're saying, and it's a great point. But we don't have any other guidance within the code that would kick this out and prevent the board from hearing it as a use variance.
That's fair enough, yeah, thank you. Okay, any other questions for council or Ms. Fetters? Okay. At this time, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor, please come forward. Mr. Cash will swear you in. Wishing to speak in favor?
Sir, do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Identify yourself, if you would, please.
My name is Lawrence Tuckosh. I'm the owner of Middletown Industrial Technologies.
Sir?
Yep.
Can you move that mic closer to you? There. Thank you. Thank you.
Give us just an overview of the type of business that you actually run there, what you propose there, what is intended in the new addition that you have here, the new building itself.
Well, Middletown Industrial does machining for different manufacturers such as Pac Worldwide, Standard Aero, which is an aerospace company. We just now got into Maverick, Maverick Precision, which is in Blue Ash. They do helicopter landing gear and aircraft landing gear. So we've been growing rapidly. We just outgrew the company. We've put as much equipment that we can in the existing building. We need more room and bigger equipment to continue our expansions. With Pac Worldwide, we do all of the Pac Worldwide facilities in the U.S., their maintenance as well as their prototype for their packaging systems.
Pac Worldwide, that's not exactly a small company.
No, we've got a great reputation with them. They built Middletown Industrial. And I give them a lot of credit for our growth because they infuse a lot of cash. And then the existing building that we have, of course, I'm not sure if you're aware of that building, but it was very run down, very dilapidated. we took it and completely renovated it and brought it up to code and added value into the community for what we've done with that building. Sure.
Are you going to be abandoning the present building?
No, we're going to continue using that. If anything, that building will go to more of our welding and painting of their products. The new building, because we're getting more into aerospace, where we're looking at defense contracts, we want to have it clean and more sterile environment for ISO 9001 and also military compliance.
What sort of painting facilities are you going to put into the existing building?
Basically, with just whatever components like Pack Worldwide for painting some of their parts that goes on the side of the machines and stuff. So it's minimal painting. It's not.
So you don't need venting or anything like that?
No.
And the picture of the building you got there, is that, I can't place that on the lot. How would you place that on your lots?
The 2 stars where you see on the properties on Fernwood, basically it'd be pretty much centered between them 2 lots. And it would be 100-foot going from the length of the lots and 40-foot wide of them lots.
Which part faces the street? Go back to the view of it, please.
If you look at the structural part of it, the other one where it shows the steel frame, there's the front door. That would be facing towards Fernwood.
That's the large garage door?
Yeah, that's a 12 by 12, so we can get heavier equipment and stuff into the facility. Because the goal is to get into larger lathes and 5-axis machining for aerospace.
I agree with what you said earlier. You did do a wonderful job with the building. I have been in your building there. I think I showed up there right after the first. And I was impressed with what you're doing there. I'm a little concerned here because this is getting into a little more traffic and stuff in the residential area. However, we haven't heard anything from anybody apparently that would object to it. And I'm all in favor of what you're doing. I just want to make sure if you grow past this, that you grow somewhere in an industrial area.
Well, we're open to that too. We thought about that. But because the existing manufacturing's there, the next logical thing was just utilize property that we currently already own to continue manufacturing versus move everything to another facility.
I think one of the challenges for me when I review this, when I hear the contracts that you're pursuing, those are wonderful contracts. I mean, it sounds like you have the capacity to really develop your business into beyond this building.
Yes, I agree.
I think there's potential for you to do extremely well, especially in the aerospace and some of the other contracts that you're looking into. My challenge is there's no way for me to look at this and not see this as clearly or facially a commercial use. We're trying to accommodate you and your vision, which is wonderful, but through the code we're making concessions for you that I'm not so sure that we would make for others if they weren't looking at these types of contracts. That's the challenge that I have. I think what you're doing is absolutely wonderful. I wish you absolutely the best. I wish I could just pick you up and transport you somewhere else in Middletown and make you as successful as you want to be. The challenge that I have, though, is when we're in a residential neighborhood, despite your current operations, that this is a commercial use. There's just no other way around it. In a neighborhood that is surrounded by residential homes, and then you're proposing, your vision is to get beyond this. You're looking forward to growing these contracts and having, a successful commercial and manufacturing type business. That's where I struggle here, whether or not that I could accommodate what you're asking tonight. not that I don't fully support what you're doing. I want you to know that. I truly do. It's just the challenge is, I'm not, if someone else was doing, not bringing forward these contracts, not doing this, wanting to put something on, again, you heard my question about the spot zoning. I'm still a little, I'm going with legal counsel on this, but just looking at the concept of spot zoning, the idea that if we're surrounded by residential and I place a commercial there because I want to accommodate an applicant or I want to accommodate a business, that lends itself, at least in my mind, to spot zoning. Under our code, apparently that's not the issue, but I just struggle with that. That's, yeah.
I think it's industrial. I don't know the difference in commercial like you're saying.
Oh, yeah, industrial, that's a better way of saying it,
Yeah,
actually.
that's really what, and I have that same heartburn.
Yeah.
And I've seen this guy's place, and it's, I mean, he's top notch as far as what I remember seeing it.
May I, Chairman? What these gentlemen are trying to say, sir, they're classy men, they really are. They're trying to apologize to you because we're the one who gave you the variance to the building to begin with. So you can blame us.
Yes,
This might be a bridge too far,
okay,
but you have done a wonderful job.
thank you.
And I remember that building when it was my God, what was it?
Cars in there and everything.
No, I mean, when I was a child, that was a
buggy shop.
it was a gas station that no longer exists.
How many shifts are you working right now, or how many do you anticipate if this variance were to be granted?
Right now, we're doing one shift, but we have, two shifts. We have weekend shift, and then we have a day shift through the week. So they work 4 hours, 10 hours, 4 days a week, and then weekends works Friday through Sunday. Currently, we're employing 7, but with the new building, it would probably get our capacity up to 20 employees over shifts with CNC equipment and automations.
So that would involve a second shift working into late evening hours?
Yes, more than likely, maybe even 3 shifts, depending on contracts with
Also,
aerospace.
is this building, do you intend on this building straddling the property line of the 2 lines?
That was a whole idea
So that would
of it.
require probably a lot consolidation. You're not going to be able to build something across a lot line without there being a lot consolidation.
Asked that question before, and I guess I got to go to Butler County.
Yep.
Get the lots merged into one. This whole application is more of, is it feasible for us to continue and moving forward versus spend our money
Right,
and
sure.
go to the industrial park. Preferably, I'd like to keep both buildings together versus have one building here and then transporting materials and stuff to the other building. But we're not opposed to looking at going to the industrial park area and building if that means that we continue to expand and bring good jobs into the Middletown area.
I would ask that you do work with the city and find one, because there's enough buildings in this town that have been abandoned in those areas. I would think that you could find a facility that's maybe there that you could fit in till you grow into it. Because this is an awkward situation for us here, you know, because I don't know that 2 homes could be built on those lots, but certainly one could be, and you could use the other lot there for your backyard.
That's what it is right now.
Yeah.
It's the dog's playground.
Is that something that the city could help you
Oh
facilitate
yeah,
looking?
I was hoping to catch him before he walked out, regardless of how this goes, because our program manager, Jacob Schulte, is gonna love to talk to you.
Okay.
Especially when you're growing your business at the rate that you are.
Yeah, because we've doubled in size each year, and this year we've over doubled last year's sales. And we're projecting that probably within the next year, we should be at 1.5 million in sales, and it's going to bring a lot of good paying jobs. If I was going to look at I'd much rather get towards, even PAC wants us moved closer to them so that way we're more readily accessible to them.
I'm pretty sure there is land for sale in that area, because I get phone calls.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have my email.
Yeah, I do.
Any other questions for Lawrence tonight? Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Yes, ma'am, please come forward.
Ma'am, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Identify yourself, please.
I'm Megan Poteet.
Speak up.
I'm Megan Poteet.
There you go.
I'm actually the daughter of Lawrence Tuckosh, who is the property owner and business owner. And I've heard a few concerns of residential concerns, and I would like to address those. I would like to say that my father has lived there for over 10 years in that house, so the neighbors have gotten to know him over a decade. And he has very good relationships with these neighbors. He is a very good citizen. And one of the reasons for that is, like you guys were talking about, he has changed the working building currently, which look like this, and I have more photos attached, into what you saw is the metal fabrication. And it's actually, sorry, I'm a little nervous. But he has not only made the neighborhood more beautiful with these changes outwardly, but he's also bringing in, like he said, well-paying jobs, and he is actually offering advancement in education for people who do not even have these skills currently with machining, fabrication, things like that, with an apprenticeship program. So you have that opportunity as well for growth, and he lives right across the street. So our neighbors' comfort is of top priority to us as a neighbor in that neighborhood as well. And the machine shop currently, that's been there for the last 3 years, one of our neighbors is just behind that building, and he's lived there for 2 years. He's actually sitting with us tonight. But sometimes our operations do go through the night, and we've never had a noise complaint. We've never had issues with parking as well. In fact, as the company continues to grow, we have land next to the current shop that could be used for parking. So congestion on the street would not be an issue. And even if we do outgrow these possibly 2 buildings, we would like to keep that space. We would like to keep it we would like to keep that space because it does help PAC worldwide. So us being close to them helps our working relationship for us to continue serving them. And like I did say, I am his daughter. I am actually working with Middletown Industrial. So it's going to be something that's passed on through the generations. So I have the vision of continuing to make the neighborhood a better place, not only aesthetically, but with jobs and continuing good relationships with our neighbors. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the proposed variance this evening? Please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition, please come forward. All right, we'll close the public hearing. We'll move to deliberation. Well, it's hard to follow, speaking for your dad. Your dad's an awesome guy. There's no question about that. You're doing some great things there. And I mean, there's certain votes that just pain you to vote against someone, especially when you're doing such great things. When I'm, Mr. Cash, in his questions, coming out with 20 employees and multiple shifts and things like that, I think as Mr. Amber, he said, for me, this may be a bridge too far. Going to really an industrial use. I do think, though, if it does not pass, I am very certain that you're going to have some opportunities coming your way from the city's development side. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. Potential funding and all sorts of things that would probably come your way in the future for development opportunities. So I would not be in favor of the variance, but I certainly wish you and your family all the best, and I think that what you're doing here is outstanding.
I'd just like to say, up until March of this past year, I owned a house on Fernwood, and I never heard one statement ever against this place and the gentleman that runs. So to verify what he said and what his daughter said, there's no doubt in my mind that he's top-notch. But the question I got for the city is, the question that the chair raised, are we going to, if we did approve this, would it cause a problem with the issues that he has raised with the planning commission or whatever?
Meaning if you granted this use variance, is it impermissible spot zoning? Can you not hear me? Sorry. Okay, so is that what you're asking me? If you grant the use variance, is it impermissible spot zoning?
I guess that's what I'm asking. I just say if
Yeah.
he has any kind of problems at all with this.
Your code allows for use variances. I certainly see your concern on this particular site, especially since it's not already developed. I think that whatever you do within the confines of your own review criteria is a defensible decision of the board. But I certainly hear your concerns about extending this industrial use further into the residential area.
Well, going back to, Ben had a review with us one time, and we discussed the fact that our decisions are all separate, period. No decision is setting a precedent. Do you hold with that?
Oh, absolutely. That's the law in Ohio. When you're in a quasi-judicial administrative hearing such as this, yes, you should be looking only at the facts of the case in front of you.
So for this, this is a very unique situation. It was a unique situation when several of us were here when we approved the variance for him to begin this business. He has more than proven himself, not only in the business, but as a good neighbor in terms of, the facility's pristine. He has a beautiful home, the whole 9 yards. This is a model citizen. He's going to be successful, and we don't want to hold that back. I don't want to hold it back. I don't want to approve this in this zone because I grew up in Mayfield, and my uncle lived 2 houses up from this property. And however, I don't want to lose a good citizen who's a successful businessman. I believe that the wisest thing for him to do is to seek another facility because I think he's that good. I think he's going to want to expand again. I believe he will be that successful. That makes me want to say, no, go find a place. But here's what I propose, Chairman. I'd say we deny for now, with the stipulation that this gentleman has 6 months to look for another facility, and if he can't find it, that he be allowed to approach this body again without paying any further fees, application fees.
had to get clarification on such a stipulation. That's,
I have two thoughts. One, I need to confirm that there's nothing in the code. Sometimes zoning codes don't allow an application to come back within a certain time frame, usually a year. We usually refer to it as you don't get a second bite at the apple. If you've been denied, you don't get to come back and reapply. So I can look and see if I can lay my hands on that answer conclusively, quickly. I may not be able to answer it conclusively here in the moment. My other thought is, of what you're describing, you're talking about two sides of a coin here in terms of the caliber of the applicant and the business that's in front of you, but also the concerns about allowing this use in a residential district. One side of that coin lines up squarely with your criteria. So I would point the board at that criteria to analyze this, because that's really where the focus of your deliberation should be.
I have another question. Because there's two lots there, I don't think it's in our realm to approve a building that would breach those unless those lots have been combined before it was presented to us.
Sure, so you could condition if the will of the board is approval, you could condition it on the consolidation of the two lots, but there are also measures in place that will catch that between this board's decision and the actual development on site. But certainly you could, if you move for approval, you could condition it with that.
yeah, I would, if I'm looking at review criteria, I'm looking at D and K. And again, I hate to be Mr. Negative on this particular area, but it's put me in a heck of a position here, okay? Because I fully support your work. I want you to know that. When we talk about essential character of the neighborhood being substantially altered as a result of the variance, I mean, again, we're looking at industrial, making a judgment here about an industrial use, allowing a use variance on this scale in a R2 or residential neighborhood. The other thing too is whether the requested use is permitted in another district in this code, which clearly it is an industrial use being. And my biggest thing is, I don't think you're small potatoes here, is what I'm saying. I think what's coming around the pike is when you talk about PAC and you talk about defense contracts, 20 employees and the projected growth, I would rather see, narrowly I'm looking at the code, but bigger picture, I see you having an opportunity that's beyond what you're looking at here on this parcel. The tools that can be provided through economic development and with the support I think that you're going to get from the city staff, I think is well beyond what you're going to be doing on this, in this narrower question is what I'm saying. I think there's more opportunity for you around the corner working with the city to do on a scale what you're looking to do longer term, as opposed to trying to accommodate this here. Again, I hate to be negative about that. I'm just only looking at the code here and its industrial use. So again, I would point out those two as far as review criteria to deny, although you certainly know that I want nothing but the best for you.
Can we table this until he gets a chance to talk to the city about other options? Is that even a permissible move?
We certainly could do that. I mean, we could take.
Would you guys support that to buy some time so he can figure it out? I don't want him to lose the business, and I don't want him to find a place outside of the city. So, but that's kind of unusual. We've never done that before that I know. But I'd like to see him work with the city and find out what options he really has. Any comments?
You have to help me on the motion on something like that. So that's kind of a tricky one there, isn't it?
Well, it is, and I hate to keep beating the same drum here, but back to the review criteria. And I feel the pain of the board, and I understand how much you're struggling with this decision, but the review criteria does not consider alternate sites or other options for an applicant. All that being said, if the board makes a motion to table, you can do that.
Stefan, thoughts?
I technically had to abstain, so.
Oh, really?
So,
Okay.
no
Thanks,
vote.
Stefan.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. again,
You guys got a lot of experience, what should we do?
Well, I'm for tabling and see what happens between now and then. Because obviously, the way things are going right now, he's probably going to have to expand again after this one.
That's what I believe.
And there's no more room there to expand. He'd have to go somewhere else anyway. And of course, we have the industrial park and we even have Hook Field. You know, given the fact he's going into aerospace.
that was my thought about Hook Field. is
Yeah.
You've got development grants, you've got potential for funding there through Hook Field. There's a lot on the development side. I could see where you would be able to apply even through the city there's probably a lot of opportunity there.
And to that point, if that was to happen, the use variance would run with the land. And so if it was granted and this, and the applicant moved on to another site, that use is still allowed on that property for another operator.
Another reason why I'm being such a stickler on this particular case is that if we weren't looking at these particular contracts, I'm not sure we would have the same conversation. So if someone, by analogy, we were taking this in a different place, I would bet we would have a different conversation. Perhaps not, but, you know, again, I still feel that if we're just looking at this narrowly with what he's proposing, 20 employees, expected growth, the types of contracts that they're pursuing, I would still be, I hate to say it, I would still be in favor of just saying no at this point, and let's just move on and let him move forward to implement that broader vision.
That would be my position as well. I don't think there's
I move
any,
turn down the variance request reluctantly and ask him to work with the city to find a better location for the business. That's my motion.
Not an easy one, yeah.
I don't know that you can put that in the motion, but
So we have a,
Somebody can make it better, but
if there is consensus for a motion to deny, you know, I think Jerry is saying that he certainly wants to move for a motion, or move a motion to deny. We'd want to make sure we reference review criteria before we move forward. You know, I referenced D and K. Those are just examples. If there's other areas you would like to look at, that's certainly fine as well, but I just pitch those to the board.
regardless of the innocuous nature of the business there, if I live next door to a 100 by 40-foot industrial building, I think my rights as an adjacent property owner, which is in H, would be adversely affected.
You're right.
yeah.
I mean, you know, we're thinking 20 employees working potentially 2, maybe even 3 shifts. That's a lot of activity going on in a residential neighborhood, especially if you live adjacent to that property. So I would add that criteria, then it would be D, H, and K, I think would be the appropriate criteria.
Well, we have a motion, a second for denial.
Mr. Gross?
Yes to deny.
Mr. Moore?
Reluctantly, yes to deny.
Mr. Ambergy?
Yes to deny.
Mr. Heidenreich?
Abstain.
Mr. Cash?
Yes to deny.
Mr. Wanamaker?
Abstain.
Claire, city needs to break the glass, pull the alarm, do something on this case.
I have it in my notes to,
Or turn him over to a good commercial realtor. One or the other.
I'm sure our economic development program manager is going to be pretty excited to hear this, so I don't doubt something good will come.
Okay, well, that wraps our meeting for tonight. We are at adjournment. I just wanted to say, Merry Christmas to everyone.
Yes.
Don't get in too much trouble on New Year's. Have a great time. And, yeah, Merry Christmas to everyone. And all those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.